Welcome to the Company of Dads podcast, where we explore the sweet, silly, strange, and sublime aspects of being a lead dad in a world where men, who are the go-to parents, aren't always accepted at work, among their friends, or in the community for what they're doing. I'm your host, Paul Sullivan. Our podcast is just one of the many things we produce each week at the Company of Dads. We have various features, including the Lead Dad of the Week. We have our community, both online and in person. We have a new resource library for all fathers that just launched. The one-stop shop for all of this is our newsletter, The Dad. So sign up today at thecompanyofdads.com/the dad. Today, my guest is Todd Michael Detwiler, known professionally as TM Detwiler. He's a noted illustrator, designer, and visual artist. He's been an art director for magazines as varied as Rolling Stone, Men's Health, and Popular Science. He works for Peloton now. We're talking to him today because he's recently written How to Dad, an illustrated instruction manual for first-time fathers. It's funny and it's helpful. Todd and his wife, Allie, live in Detroit with their two children, Teddy, who is 3, and Veda, who is 2. Welcome, Todd, to the Company of Dads podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Just, from your day job, just settle an argument that I have with some of my dad friends. Is my Peloton judging me for not riding it enough?
That's funny. It's interesting you say that. I would say that everybody that I interact with at Peloton is very conscious of how it makes you feel. So I would say that they probably are encouraging you as much as they can without making you feel bad.
They email me. They email me all the time. Like, here's your past week. Woeful. They don't say it. It's unspoken. I read between the lines, and it's like, Is that a layer of dust on your seat on your Peloton? How would that happen?
That's really funny you say that. Yeah, there are teams in place that work especially hard on crafting just the right verbiage.
All right, 3 and 2. Those are some pandemic babies, man. That's what we're talking about here. You're a dad. Tell me about how it came to be. You and your wife, Allie, living in Detroit in an old character-filled house. You start off, it's always a lonely journey when you become a dad for the first time, but you become a dad during a global pandemic. So what was that like?
I think there was some unique things about it because of the pandemic. So our firstborn, Teddy, was born in New York City. We were living in Jersey City, but we had moved from Manhattan to Jersey City. And then my wife was pregnant, and the pandemic hit. And then Teddy was born, and it's interesting. So you have all these doctor's appointments, right? With masks on, and it feels, like not as personal as it should be. The thing that I noticed about these visits for first-time dads, and this is pandemic or no, is that you quickly go into that room and you find out that you're probably the 4th most important person in that room.
If that, yeah.
If you're lucky. I remember going in thinking, all right, I'm here. I'm part of this journey. I'm going to participate. I want to be involved, everything. I want to be as involved as mom is. And the doctor, I don't even think looked at me. It's like, this is not your journey. So it's interesting, but you realize that, and then you realize that your place is really supporting, and it's really how everything that you can do, find your moments to be extremely helpful. And what are those moments? And then, do it.
So I'll tell you, so my first daughter, who's almost 14, she was delivered by my college roommate's dad. Now, this wasn't so freaky. He's actually qualified. He's obstetrician, well-known where we live, delivered 11,000 plus babies. So because I had this relationship with him since I was 18 years old, I got included. I felt more included. I wasn't excluded like a lot of dads. And then we get to the hospital. We deliver the baby at Stanford Hospital. We live in Southern Connecticut. And I get there and I'm so excited. And here I am. I'm the dad. And I get handed the form for the birth certificate. And nowhere on the form do they care about me at all. It's like mother's name, where's from. What about me? Like what about me? And that was that, just like you're saying, like you're there, but you're not always there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, I think it's important for dads to realize that maybe, but also don't let that hinder their involvement. And they can take notes, they can be there for all these pre-baby arrival meetings and these appointments, because there are many. And then in the room, baby arrives. Dad as much as a part as mom is.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how much I love babies. But babies, you don't realize this maybe until they get to be toddlers like they are now. Babies are easy. They're really pretty simple.
Yeah.
I guess they cry a little bit and they wake up in the middle of the night, but they just want to be, fed for the most part, burped, and changed.
I agree. When people complain about, the diapers, like, give me a break, man. If the only thing I had to do the rest of my life is change diapers, that's just logistics. That's and you get so good at it after a while. Like, come on, boom, boom, boom. It just gets more complicated as you go along.
So in the book, there's a spread on how to change a diaper.
Yeah, I know. I've seen it. Yeah.
Here's the truth. You don't need this spread. You do it once, do it twice, because you're going to do it a couple hundred times, like in that first few months, in that first year, that you get so good at it. It's just a repetition thing. And it seems silly putting it in there. But hey, here's what it looks like.
But you're putting it in there for the guys who are yet to be dads. And there's certain things they worry about because they don't know that that's really the least of your worries is changing the baby's diaper.
There's so much. Like it is. So maybe you did the same thing before you were a dad. You probably read a book or two, or at least did some research. You're like, you understand, you've seen babies before, you know what you're getting yourself into. However, what do you really like? What really goes on during pregnancy? How long is it? What kind of visits are I? What's the birth like? What do I have to do when there is a baby? Like, what is involved? I've never changed a diaper before I changed my son's, and so I did read some books, and I found them. Some of them were good. The one big book out there, the What to Expect.
What to expect when you're expecting? Yeah. What to expect when you're expecting?
It's incredibly written by some very smart and talented people. However, I found it a little terrifying because they go into a lot of details and a lot of scenarios that could play out. And I'm like, this is a lot. This is a lot of medical stuff, and it reads that way, and it was a little scary, I thought. And some other books I read made it a little too casual, a little too broy, and like there was it wasn't enough pictures for me as a visual person. So I was inspired by what was out there. It's like I think I can do a book where it's a lot of visuals. You don't focus on all the possible bad things that can happen, because there are plenty. But just give new dads this sort of cliff note idea of what's in store. Some big words, some buzzy things to talk that you're going to hear during pregnancy and during the birth. Take that information, and then you'll be ready if you hear it, and you can build on it.
I love this. A couple years ago, we moved from our first house to the house we're in now because we ended up having more kids. We ran out of space. And I moved all the books to the bookshelves, and we probably have 40 parenting books. And I would say 80% of them have the most pristine spines you've ever seen. Another 15% of them, there's a dog-geared page, but it's only 30 pages in, so there's all of this knowledge sitting there, none of which I actually acquired before I needed it. I sort of learned on the job. But the way you set up this book, How to Dad, the way you've set it up by and it's not, they're really good visuals, but it's not silly. It's like, here's how to do it. There's some, it takes, I like, and even I want to get to the airplane one in a second, but there are even some ones that are, but when you were thinking about, okay, there's so much to put into a book like this. And as you said, you didn't want it to be any of the, the possible bad things that can happen. how did you curate it? How did you think about, okay, this is essential, this isn't? You know, when you're talking to people to get their feedback, how did that process play out?
So I think it started with like creating this outline of the book that I had shopped the book around a little bit. There was one publisher who was interested in basically a pitch deck. You know, there wasn't much to it, and then I created an outline off of it, and that outline really guided the book. And it started very broad and very big, and then we filled in a lot of those spots with even more detail of certain things. It's chronological, right? So it starts from pregnancy tests, and the only advice I have for anybody for pregnancy tests is spend a little bit more to get those ones that just say pregnant or not pregnant. The lines that are faded and like your mind's thinking, well, maybe this is, maybe this that. Just get the ones that are the
A
simple.
couple extra bucks, couple extra bucks. Not going to set you back. Kids are expensive. This be the,
It's money well
first
spent.
investment. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's chronological all the way till the kid's about a year old. And so, yeah, figuring out what to put in, what to leave out. I think we tried to hit a lot of like the main key components and a lot of the words that are out there that you're going to hear, especially at like doctor's appointments, but also during the first trimester, second trimester, third trimester. We dedicate a lot. I say we because it was me that wrote the book, that illustrated the book, but I had a great team of editors as well that helped out a lot. I'm not a writer, as it turns out, Paul. I am an illustrator, and I needed some guidance and some molding, I think, at times, and they were very helpful in that regard.
Did anybody on that team push back and say, Todd, what are you, a fucking first time father or something like that? That doesn't go in there.
The funniest thing I think I remember happening was this was very early on in the book, and I told them, I was like, not everybody knew that our second Veda was on the way, and I was like, Veda's going to be here probably in the next 3 months. And there was a guy, was an art director that I'd known from Retro Rolling Stone. He just starts laughing. He's like, you got another one coming in 3 months. He's like, this book is never getting done. And I was like, what are you talking about? I work late at night. I'll be able to get this thing done, no problem. And I missed my deadline, and they extended it another year. So this is a 2-year book. This is how long it took because he was so right. When 2 kids arrived, my time shrank wholly
Oh yeah.
about what.
And it doesn't shrink geometrically; it shrinks exponentially. And my first book uh, came out shortly after our first daughter was born, and that was pretty easy because as my wife got more tired as the pregnancy went on, I like you, I would work at night. I finished it. I had a day job in the New York Times, finished it up, no problem. And then I sell another book, which is due, shortly after our second daughter is set to arrive on this earth, and same arrogance, same like, what do you? This is easy. And not only this story is worse than yours because I turned in the second book that was like a pile of drivel, like blah blah blah. I am very tired, like, and nothing to do. And the editor took me aside and said, "I think you got to take another crack at this." Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I was like, "You got to take another." So that was another year on top of it, and I'm like, "Okay, I get it." And there hasn't been a third book, so fun stuff.
It's funny talking about this because I look back when it was just my wife Allie and I, no kids, and I wonder what the hell we were doing with our time. I don't. We must have been doing nothing, like nothing. It feels like because you have 2 kids or you have any kids, your time just it's gone. It's like it's not gone. It's with your children, and it's
Yeah.
lovely and it's awesome. I wouldn't exchange it all. But I do look back. It's like, what were we doing? I don't remember what we were doing.
But like,
Dinners?
but you were reading the Sunday New York Times on Sunday. You were keeping up on your New Yorkers. You were having brunch with your friends. You were on your Peloton all the time, so it wasn't judging you as my Peloton judges me. And then suddenly that all evaporates, and now it's just a whole series of guilt. Like, I'm actually reading this book right now that I really, really like, and I'm trying to, like, how do I get the time to read? I don't want to read page and a half. I want to sit down and read, 20 pages. Your time evaporates.
It's so funny. You said brunch with friends. I remember it's like it came back to me. I used to have brunch with friends. That used to be a thing.
Books are obviously, you're an illustrator, but the books, even when you're trying to write a book that's meant to help people in that first year, help people kind of get into this, ease into this role of dad. There's some of you in it. There's some of you, or a lot of you in it, a lot of your personality in it. How would you describe your dadding style?
Well, I take a lot of cues maybe from how I was brought up. My own dad, who I love very much, he's passed on, but I just want to give my kids kind of great structure and nothing but love. But at the same time, you have to find these moments where you got to be, instructive and disciplined, and you have to make them good people. And it's pretty natural, I think, for my wife and I to do that. However, it's interesting when they first start talking. I caught myself doing this, and I was like, wait a minute. But basically, when they first start talking, you're so excited that they're saying that they're pointing to it. And they're like, apple. Oh, you want an apple? Here you go. This is your apple. Look at that. It's awesome. What's this? A knife? You want a knife? Yeah, here's a knife. Take it. You're like, wait a second. Just because they're saying something and they want it, and you kind of just give them to them for a little bit, and they're like, wait, no. You got to filter and edit, and you got to be a parent.
What do you need $100 bill for? You're 3 years old. No, give that back. You don't need that.
Yeah, exactly. But you find out that you can build these little barriers in. You can say no, and then my wife's better at it than I am. So I just kind of spoil our daughter a little bit because I just kind of give her what she wants a lot because I don't know, she's my daughter. My son, I'm a bit more curt with, I guess, when it comes to what he's allowed to do or not with screen times or TV or whatever. But my daughter seems to get everything. But parenting style, I think it's mostly just, it's very loving and it's very caring, and I love spending time with them. And whenever they were younger, I remember if they were just crying and they weren't going to stop crying, giving them their time in a crib and being able to walk away. I think that's an important note. If you get overwhelmed when they're a baby, not when they get older, you just can't leave. But you can put them in a crib and monitor them and step out of a room and take your time. Take those moments if you need them. I think I'm still working on my parenting style and how to be a dad. As they grow up, they ask more questions. They want to do more things. They want to do everything that I'm doing. So Teddy will help me cook eggs, which is really fun. But at the same time, that's pretty hot pan. And so we have to learn that, and he knows. But how much do you let him do? Can he flip the egg? I think he can, but he needs some guidance. He gets so happy. So I think I'm trying to be as much empowering as I can while keeping them safe.
I love it. But given your professional career, your identity, you are an illustrator. You presumably work in your home. You carve out time to get the stuff done that you need to get done. How have you 3 years into being a dad? How have you been able to sort of designate time and space for you to be creative, to fulfill your obligations, things that you've been commissioned to do, versus a 3 and a 2-year-old? They're spending a lot of their life at or around home now. How have you managed that?
It's not easy. I think it's important to find time for yourself, for your passions, as well as your work. Teddy and Beta both go to daycare. So I think that's essential because my wife and I do both work from home. And if they were here, nothing would get done. Even if we did like a live-in nanny of some kind, that it just wouldn't work because our offices are here. We work from home. Even if the kids are here with somebody else, they just want to know what we're doing. So they would just bark. So that daycare is an essential part of getting things done. And then I do work at night a lot. And so there's a pretty big gap by the time from pickup of daycare, dinner time, bath time, bedtime, that usually I'm there, and that is not time for me. But after that, I'm exhausted, but I can still have time to do work and to focus on me. Uh, I've got a great wife. I'm very lucky, and so we help each other out that way. If somebody needs to go do something, they go do it. The kids are old enough; they're getting easier, uh, and this is true for all dads out there, and who already realize this, or for new dads who have yet to realize this. It gets easier
Yeah.
as they get a little older, and then I'm sure it gets harder again. But I
It just
think,
gets different. Yeah.
yeah, toddlers are tricky because they're very mobile, and but they're always finding themselves in very dangerous situations. They like to jump. They're always beat up, like they're always cut on something, that scratches and stuff. So you kind of always have to monitor them when they're in another room. They're like they can go into another room now, which is great. You don't have to follow them
Right.
and watch what they're doing. But if things get too quiet, you get really, yeah, you got to go check on them. Yeah.
It's interesting,
Um,
you're working from home, your wife's working from home, you're working for yourself in a lot of ways, but you're working what we've called at the Company of Dads a care shift, and this is something we've really pushed for. I'm sure it sounds like you're doing a little bit of work, you're getting stuff set up before the kids, when they get up, then you're taking them to daycare, then you're working that chunk of time during the day, and then you're stopping. They come home, you got to focus on them, wonderful family time, but then you're working again at night. And this is something that we advocate for, not somebody in a creative field like you, though it obviously works, but for all workers to show that, you know, COVID, a lot of bad things happened in COVID, but some of the good things were it taught us that we could, work in really focused chunks and get everything done. And I'm going to guess that for you, it's probably a very different way of working than you were working in 2019 before you had kids.
I worked very differently before kids. I like what you said. I think that you're exactly right. Before kids, I had a lot more freedom, and I would stay up late, like 2 o'clock in the morning was pretty normal to work that late. Uh, Now there's no way I could get it past 11:30 maybe before I'm just completely zapped. Weekends are a lot of fun, but there's little work getting done on the weekends, and weekends used to be a time for me to really catch up on work.
Yeah.
It was freelance projects, or before Peloton, it was nothing but freelance projects. So it was always a time for me to catch up. But the weekends do get swallowed up by fun, and it's not swallowed up. It's not like a good bad. It's
Right.
just different. So the weekends are for family, and they're for the kids, and we do fun stuff. We're outside. We'll go do things. We'll go see there's things they want to see, like Blippy Live was a recent concert we went to, which is if you don't know Blippy,
Not
he's
exactly
a
Taylor Swift, but Taylor
no,
Swift for a different demographic, shorter,
yeah,
more
he's a
demanding.
singing, dancing harlequin of sorts, and he was on tour. It was cool, fun. The kids loved it. But you do those kind of things at the zoo. It's fun. But the weekends.
Todd, listen to you, man. You were a cool guy. You were a graphic designer living in New York City, and now you're talking about Blippy, and you know his tour dates. Okay, this
What
this shows the change that we all go through.
what happened? Yeah, no, it's true. I'm not sure how cool I ever was, but yeah, if anybody wants, the Blippy tour schedule, hit me up. I'll shoot it over to
Did you get an autograph? Did you get some backstage passes with Blippy?
Teddy. Actually got his photo taken with Blippy, so
That's
that was
that shit's big. Yeah. I remember my oldest daughter was young. She was obsessed with Elmo, and we went to this breakfast with Elmo, and she was overwhelmed. She was about 2 years old. She was just overwhelmed, and she kept following him and hugging him, and she just loved Elmo so much. But it was difficult because every other child wanted to have his or her time with Elmo. When I look through the book, I love, like we talked about at the top, some tactical stuff, assembling the nursery furniture, diapering. We talked about that. Some, caregiving, some serious stuff, kids choking, what do you do? Um, Talk about the pages in the book about air travel with kids. Because if there's ever a before and after in a human's life, it's air travel without kids, when you can be as judgy as you want, you can do whatever the heck you want on that plane, and then air travel with kids.
So I can speak to a couple of things. We've done it wrong a couple times. I've seen other parents really kind of nail it out of the park. And it all depends how old your kid happens to be. If your kid's a baby, yeah, you're got it made in the shade. You got a lap kid, take it. And if it's a baby, you know, maybe she'll fuss or he'll fuss a little bit, but you'll feed her and pacify her. Maybe you'll go to the changing table in the bathroom. All good. The kid's not crawling around the airplane or anything. So you got the kid under control. We recently took a trip. We went down to Florida for a long weekend, and we had Teddy just in a seat, and then Beta had a seat too. So we bought 4 seats. And we're like, the kids are just gonna sit there. Maybe we'll give them phones or something. They're good. They're good. They were good for about 15 minutes, I'd say.
Yeah.
And then they just wanted to crawl around. Literally, it's like the illustration I drew. It's almost comical. Like they just wanted to crawl over the seats and under the seats and down. I'm like, what are we doing? What do we think we were? Who are we? And then up like about 5 rows in front of us, I saw these people coming in. I'm like, look at these loser parents. They don't know what they're doing. They brought in their car seats and they put them in the seat. And then the kid, who's like a toddler, they put the kid in the car seat, and it was also in the plane seat. And I'm like, this is a lot of luggage they're bringing along just to put the kid in the seat. Like, how paranoid are these people? However, they were geniuses because the kid is used to sitting in the car seat for long periods of time, buckled in, strapped in. It couldn't move, couldn't get out. So it worked. Like, their kid was, politely just sitting there eating his crackers, watching TV or something, not getting out of the seat, where our kids were just, yeah, it was a nightmare. So
you know what they were doing, Todd, don't you? Do you know what they were doing? They were judging you. Like, who are those 2 losers over there who don't bring the car seats? What do they think? They think they're that cool? Hey, Mr. Cool Guy Hair. Yeah, that's going to go great.
No, it was so funny. I was thinking that about them. And then we were getting off the plane, Allie pointed it out to me. I was like, oh my God, we really screwed up there. They were probably the exact same thing. Like, look at those idiots. They have no idea.
Fucking rookies. They make this great device that you get, that you have one of those car seats and you actually buckle it in, and it turns it into like a roller bag, and you literally strap the kid into the car seat, put the wheels on the back, and roll the kid through that. I love that thing. That was fantastic. One pro tip, and when this will go to my audience, when it goes out to your audience, my wife was genius at this early on. Like, when we would fly with the little kids, we would address the people in front of us, behind us, and to the side of us, and we'd say, if you would like a drink, let us know what drink you would like, and we will buy it for you. And nobody ever took us up on it, but it broke the ice as to, like, I don't know what's going to happen. This could be good. I remember one flight, it was Thanksgiving, down to Florida for Thanksgiving, and my daughter, now my 14-year-old, she was on, 2-ish, screamed the entire time, like 85%, 90% of the flight. She was screaming. And then she was done, and she says, she grabs my hand and she wants to walk up and down the aisle. And I'm like, fuck that. I'm not walking up and down that aisle with you. You are a marked woman. Everybody on this plane hates you right now. I'm not going to, like, parade up and down the aisle. And she's like, come on, daddy, walk. Daddy. It's like, oh, man, I remember that stuff well.
We've all been there. We've had you've been on a plane with other screaming babies or kids, and something you can do. But that's not a bad idea. I like that the drink offer is it's great. It's a great idea. Just say, hey, it's on me. This one's on me. I got this, everybody. Kids, I don't know what the hell's gonna happen. You don't know. Like, the kids are so good. Sometimes they're not, and it's just the way they are.
That's what it is. Todd Detwiler, author of How to Dad. Thoroughly enjoyed our time together. Thank you for being on the Company of Dads podcast. Last question to you. What was the thing that you learned the most about in writing and illustrating this book?
You might like this. I think it wasn't necessarily about any discovery about being a dad. It was more of an appreciation for writers in general. I'd say that, as well as sort of just the effort that goes into creating something like a book. There's a great deal of effort involved. It started out really fun, and eventually it just became work, like a lot of work. I did it for my kids. I would never have done it had it not been for my kids. They are the inspiration for the book. They're the only reason I finished the book. Everything that's in there was inspired by them in some fashion. And I really, as I was doing it and putting all the details into it, my hope is that first time dads, new dads, you're not a dad yet, but you're going to be. You find out you're going to be. I hope that the book gives you a menu of what's to come and what some things are going to be in store for. It's not all going to be the same because fatherhood's just not. It's not a one size fits all thing. But if it gives you some solace and it gives you a little bit of informative information about what's to come, then I think I've done my job. And good luck to you. I think there's nothing better than being a father. So I hope you appreciate it. The moment, every second with your kids, awesome. And I hope you enjoy being a dad.
Thank you again, Todd. I thoroughly enjoyed having you on the Company of Dads podcast today.
Thank you, Paul. This was awesome. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to the Company of Dads podcast. I also want to thank the people who make this podcast and everything else that we do with the Company of Dads possible. Helder Mira, who is our audio producer, Lindsay Decker, who handles all of our social media, Terry Brennan, who's helping us with the newsletter and audience acquisition, Emily Servin, who is our web maestro, and of course, Evan Roosevelt, who is working side by side with me in many of the things that we do here at the Company of Dads. It's a great team, and we're just trying to bring you the best in fatherhood. Remember, the one-stop shop for everything is our newsletter, The Dad. Sign up at thecompanyofdads.com/thedad. Thank you again for listening.